Have you ever felt like you weren't good enough? That the cracks in your soul made you less than worthy? If the answer is yes, then this story is for you, a cracked pot, and the gift it brought every day, even though no one saw it. Once upon a time, in a faraway land, there lived a water bearer. He carried 2 earthen pots, hung on either end of a pole, on his back, and walked a long distance from the stream to his home. One pot was perfect, without a crack. The other was old, with a long crack down the side. After each trip, the cracked pot could only bring back half the amount of water as the perfect pot. It was sad, ashamed, and always felt guilty. One day, the cracked pot said to the water bearer, "I'm sorry, I failed. I didn't do as well as the other pot." The water bearer smiled. He said, "Do you see the row of flowers growing along your path? I planted the seeds there, and it is the drops of water that fall from you every day that water the flowers to bloom. If it weren't for that crack, there would be no flowers." Before going into the fascinating details of the story, please subscribe to the Legacy of Thinkers channel to always accompany us. Part 1: Story and Metaphor. That cracked pot, if it had a soul, must have lived with a complex for a long time. Every day, it looked at the other pot, round, shiny, without a scratch, and asked itself, "Why was I born with such a defect?" It felt useless. It felt like a burden. It felt like its existence was a failure. This is not just the story of an inanimate object, but it is the story of many people who silently live like that every day. There was a person who was laughed at because of his limping gait, because of his unique voice. There was a girl who lived her entire childhood with the eyes of comparison. "Why aren't you as good as your sister?" There was a boy who stood in the middle of the classroom, blushing because he got a bad grade, and from then on never dared to raise his hand to speak. There was a person who was betrayed, and from then on always thought that he was not good enough to be loved. There was a person who had a scar on his face. No one asked, but they thought, "Everyone will look at me with pity." And then, like that cracked pot, they silently carried the distorted belief that, "I am not good enough to bring anything of value." But what they didn't know was that the water carrier, the one who understood the pot best, saw what the pot itself could not see. He knew about the crack, but he did not throw it away. He did not try to patch it up. On the contrary, he planted seeds on the side of the cracked pot, believing that the water that seeped from the crack would water the barren land. And it was true. Every day, the drops of water that fell, thought to be wasted, were silently nurturing the flowers. The brilliant flowers grew, not thanks to the intact pot, but thanks to the crack that it was ashamed of. And when the pot first saw the path full of flowers, it cried. Not because of regret, but because for the first time, it understood. My imperfection is also a gift. That story is a great metaphor for life. Because we, each of us, have cracks. Sometimes it is a weakness that we try to hide. Sometimes it is an unhealed sadness. Sometimes it is a part of us, so different, that we are considered wrong. But instead of hiding, Seneca and the Stoics taught that it is in those cracks that the light can penetrate. And it is when we accept our vulnerability that we can live most authentically and fully. What makes you valuable is not who you are. It is not how perfect you are. It is how you choose to live with your own cracks. Part 2: Deep Analysis and Relation to the Viewer. The cracked pot did not know that. All the time it was feeling guilty about not being able to hold all the water. It was silently nurturing a path full of flowers. The drops of water that it thought were a loss turned out to be a source of life. Like so many of us, we grow up with a default formula of self-worth. To be loved must be good. To be accepted must be perfect. To be recognized must always be right. Always strong. Always up to standard. And every time we stumble, every time we do something wrong, every time we are weak or feel too different, we don't dare to share. We hide. Worse, we condemn ourselves. I'm not good enough. I should have done more. I'm not worthy. Who would want someone like me? There was a girl whose parents reminded her every day, "Why aren't you like your brother?" And when she grew up, she lost faith in her uniqueness. There was a guy who lived with an inferiority complex for 10 years because of a mistake in his youth. Not daring to step into love. There was a single mother who stood in the middle of the market, being scolded because her child was naughty, and that night, she hugged her child to sleep with tears streaming down her face. Wondering, where did I go wrong? We become the most severe version of ourselves, not because anyone forces us to, but because we are afraid of that. If others see the cracks, they will leave. But life, in fact, does not require you to be a perfect vase. It only requires you to be honest with yourself. See the cracks, and understand that it does not take away your value, it shapes you. Seneca, like that cracked vase, was not a perfect person. He was exiled. He was caught up in political whirlwinds, lived in fear and internal struggles. But he did not let those cracks swallow him. He wrote to keep his mind clear. He contemplated to understand himself better. He was silent to hear his inner voice. And he left behind pages of philosophy, not from books, but from the times he was wounded, but did not give up. You too. Maybe you have hurt someone. You've failed miserably. You've experienced depression, lost direction, and thought you couldn't get up. And you think, I'm not worthy anymore. But think again. Those cracks have given you the opportunity to look back at yourself. They help you become more profound, more attentive, more empathetic. You know pain, so you know gentleness. You've been wrong, so you learn to be tolerant. You've lost, so you know how to cherish the little things. Those things can't be learned from books. They can't be found in success courses. They only come from the cracks that you were afraid others would see. Like the water carrier who sowed flower seeds on the wet path. You can also sow love, kindness, understanding into life from the most imperfect part of you. You don't have to be someone else. You don't have to hide what's gone. You just have to be yourself. But honest enough, gentle enough, and patient enough to see the flowers blooming from the cracks. Part 3 Lessons Learned. We are all cracked pots. Some people carry a pain in their hearts that they have never named. Some people have stumbled in the past and have never forgiven themselves. There are scars that have not healed, not on the skin, but engraved in the memory. Everyone carries some kind of crack. Sometimes obvious, sometimes hidden. And that doesn't make us less valuable. It's what makes us more human. If you're waiting until you're perfect before you allow yourself to be loved, before you dare to dream, to speak, to live your truth, then you'll probably wait your whole life. And so, no flowers will grow from the part you hide. There was a girl who thought she had to be completely healed to be worthy of a relationship. But it turned out that it was when she dared to open up while she was still wounded, that she met someone gentle enough not to hurt her further. There was a boy who felt inadequate because he had lost his job. But it was during those months without pay that he wrote a blog to help others get out of crisis, and inadvertently created a healing community for thousands of others. Seneca once wrote, "There is nothing nobler than a soul that has seen its own wounds and still chooses to be kind." You don't have to become someone else. You don't have to force yourself to hide what's gone. Just move forward with all that you are, and plant a few small seeds along the way. Because there will come a time when someone walks into your life, on a day when they are lost, and suddenly sees a flower growing from the crack you were once ashamed of. And thanks to that, they believe in themselves again. And just like that, you have lived a meaningful life. The end, the story end. If this story makes you look at yourself, and for the first time, you see that the cracks in you can also create beauty, then hold on to that feeling. Don't rush past it. Let something sprout inside you, a gentleness towards yourself, an understanding towards others, a new beginning that doesn't have to be perfect. If you are looking for a place to go with such healing stories, subscribe to Legacy of Thinkers. Every day, we tell small but profound stories, stories that make you stop, breathe slowly, and live more meaningfully. And if you want to continue this inner journey, watch the next video. The Teacher and the Salt. When your heart is bitter, the whole world is salty. It's another lesson about making peace with your own emotions, so as not to hurt the people you love the most. You don't have to be a perfect vase. You just have to be yourself, and let every step you take be a path of flowers.